Very good.
Oh, just
Hold on. Oh, got it on the first try. Let's do another one anyways. Thank you.
You did? Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Thank you.
You guys done a great job on the work that you did up there. I've been an avid Kissimmee River person before and after, and the difference between this and this is just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's working. It's working slowly, but it's working. Thank you. Julie just said that Johnny's children are river rats, raised on the river. Okay, so I don't know if we're staying here. Did we have other folks who wanted to say a few words? Maybe the board could go back up to the dais for me. Thank you.
I believe that we have a lot of folks that have traveled just to say a few words about Johnny Jones, so it may be appropriate to invite them to say a few words now, and then we can do employee recognitions afterwards. But a lot of his friends are here, and I think they'd like the opportunity to address the board.
And I want to point out the board has a wonderful write-up on Johnny Jones in the Fish and Wildlife News that Manly Fuller was kind enough to give us this morning. So I hope everybody will have a chance to see this. Manly, I don't know if you brought enough copies, but
we can ship you a bunch more.
or anybody who would like to see that, contact Manly right after the...
Mr. Chairman, I have some of the names. Do you want me to...
Yes, you proceed. I'm sorry. I just wanted to point that wonderful article out.
Okay. Right now we have John Marshall and Jim Harvey that would like to say a few words. If you are in the audience and you would like to say a few words, maybe a minute or so at the podium, we'd love to invite you to do that. So why don't we start with John Marshall? Is John Marshall in the room? Nephew of the
Governing Board, thanks very much for this special opportunity to make a tribute to Johnny Jones. My tribute also includes Mariana because she was the silent partner behind Johnny, and it's just so appropriate that she also be recognized in our opinion. John Marshall, Arthur R. Marshall Foundation. Art and Johnny were like brothers. Their activities were covered by all sorts of media, Sports Illustrated, Penthouse, Playboy, and a whole bunch of others. They really got around and got their message out. And it was here that they actually became known by the media as the Double Trouble Brothers. And they made a lot of heartburn for a lot of people. It is a tribute to Mariana and Johnny that the Jones House was the site where the Marshall Foundation plan was invented, as Shannon has recognized. And this was a plan, of course, to restore the Everglades by restoring seaflow from the Kissimmee Basin to Florida Bay. Well, I went back to the boilerplate of the Marshall Plan to see who was still around. And, of course, that included Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Art Marshall, Johnny Jones, and Susan Wilson. So I called Susan Wilson up. I said, Susan, tell me something that I can say that nobody else is probably going to say. She says, oh, no problem. And appropriately it involved the Kissimmee restoration. Well, in the early 1970s, Johnny went to this character in the Senate, the Speaker of the House, Mallory Horn. And Johnny used his belly approach to convince Horn that he needed to start funding and legislating for the repair of the Kissimmee. And long story short, the 1976 report came out, which is a rather famous report. It's unfortunate that we didn't get a whole lot done between then and the turn of the century, but long story short, we did get a good portion of the Kissimmee restored, and it became the hallmark of success in SERP. And really, fortunately, Johnny was alive to see that through, and so we're very happy that progress was made. Now, if Johnny was here today, he would likely say, do more, we have to do more. As a further tribute to Johnny and Mariana, the Marshall Foundation will plant a memorial tree and place a memorial brick in the Arthur R. Marshall Loxahatchee National Wildlife Refuge. I may be able to claim the heaviest tribute today. So the inscription reads, Johnny and Mariana Jones, environmentalist extraordinaire, and that will be placed by tribute to Marjorie and Hart as well. All these tributes are well-deserved. However, the greatest tribute we can make to Johnny and Mariana is to emulate their accomplishments to the extent we are capable and continue to engage all to do more. We have to do more. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Harvey.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Wanted to not let this occasion pass by without noting to the board that Johnny Jones once worked for the district. Yeah, how about that? Johnny Jones, I think, is one of the members of what I would call the citizens movement, a group of people who kind of considered themselves a consensus of one. And if John was hard-headed, this gentleman was equally hard-headed. So it takes a lot of hard heads to get much of anything done in Tallahassee. So I came to know Johnny Jones when I was a staffer in Bob Graham's office. And there are a number of other sort of citizen movement people that need to be mentioned along with John Jones. And it's people like Wayne Nelson, and Scott Driver, and Freddie Fisicelli, and a host of others. Basically came from a conservation background, a wildlife background, not a corporate background. But they knew that something needed to happen to keep our environment here in Florida safe. A lot of that has changed. Seems like the market for hard-headed people has gone down. Does add humor to meetings, but somehow we're more into consensus these days than a consensus of one. Perhaps the best learning experience, if you really want to figure out what's going on in this sociological movement, is to read a book that was written by Patrick Moore. Patrick Moore is the guy that invented Greenpeace and then left Greenpeace. That happens to a lot of people as times change. Times are a-changing, and the new group of whippersnappers are almost in charge, but not quite. So my little war story starts when I was a staffer here and got called to the executive office by then Director Woody Wodraska and said, hey, I want you to do something. Now, that meant, boy, are you in trouble. But as an old soldier and dog handler in Vietnam, it's kind of like, oh, well, whatever. So he said, I want you to catch up with Johnny Jones because you've known him for a long time in Tallahassee, and now you're down here with us, and we need to work together. So I want to find something productive for John to do. So I tried to reach him. That didn't work. Called Mariana. That worked. And John always had a way of needing to sort of test your mettle. Not that he hadn't tested it a time or two in Tallahassee, but a new test. So he said, well, okay, I'll meet with you. Maybe I'll do something, maybe I won't. What do you want to do? I said, well, my love at that point, since I was a staffer on the special project to prevent the eutrophication of Lake Okeechobee, the book that John was just talking about, was I want to do something for Lake Okeechobee. Said there was a lot being done for the water coming into the lake. The water going out of the lake is pretty damn bad shape. I want to focus on, and I have focused on, for the last 30 years, I've come to this meetings over here incessantly and said, you know, like, what the hell are we doing for the lake, in the lake? And that also was good for, I guess this was like 1988. So John gave me an address on Okeechobee. I don't remember the address today, but it was one of the seediest places I'd ever seen in my life. So I said, see the nature of the test. It's like, are we really going to have a meeting here at 11 o'clock in the morning? It's like, yep. So we sat down and I said, John, I don't know what you want to do. I don't know what I want to do, but when we leave here, if we leave here alive, we're going to have a plan. And the plan needs to focus on doing something good for the lake. Not outside the lake, not downriver the lake, in the lake. And we argued it back and forth for a while and decided that one of the things we could do to take, this is back in ancient times before God invented the wheel, see that comment in this realm, was to take rough fish out of the lake, Fish are great collectors of phosphorus. Take the rough fish out, you take the phosphorus out. What could be more cool than that? Here's a guy that had a great relationship with the Game and Freshwater Fish Commission, all the fishermen and hunters that ever were invented, and we proceeded to do that, and that was the first phosphorus that was taken out of Lake Okeechobee, and probably to this day racks up as the most cost-effective phosphorus that was taken out of the lake. So, Mariana, thank you. John Jones, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Manley, did you want to come up and just say a few words? And Martha Musgrove, is Martha Musgrove in the audience? I didn't know she had, okay, too. I'll tee Martha up. Okay, Manley?
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Senator. Thank you all. Shannon, I thought that was a great presentation, John and Jim. It was an honor to know Johnny and to still know Mariana. Blake, in his book Land in the Water, Water in the Land, which is a very good description of what we did to the Everglades and some of the things that we need to do to change it back, written in 1980. He described Johnny as the most effective lobbyist for conservation in Florida. Many of, in addition to the people that you've heard from so far, I've had all kinds of calls from people who worked with Johnny. Paul Parks, who worked on Lake Okeechobee also. Unfortunately, Paul is very ill, but Paul wanted to convey his love and appreciation of the opportunity to work with Johnny. On behalf of the Florida Wildlife Federation, who I represent as the president and director of the staff, and we have a number of board members present, officers and board members present. We're honored to the achievements those things that we achieve, and a lot of the achievements that you all have accomplished in terms of moving the bar towards Everglades restoration. A lot of that comes from is built on the foundation that Johnny laid, and I think one thing Johnny would want to ask and charge, he wouldn't just say, well, thanks for recognizing me. He'd say, well, damn it, we got a lot more work to do. And so thank you all for your some of the tough, courageous votes that you've taken over the last few years to move restoration forward, and we need to keep working at it because it's worth it. And Johnny loved the Everglades. He loved the idea of a restored Everglades and having a place where people could get out and enjoy it through hunting and fishing and recreational opportunities. And you just can't say enough good about him. And he had the courage of his convictions, and no question about that. And he feared no man. He was not intimidated by anyone. And he had a good strategic mind. And I tell you though, a little story. I was invited down by Johnny in 1984 to help when the state was. I was then up in North Carolina working for the National Wildlife Federation, and I came down to help work with him on what became the Warren Henderson Wetlands Act, which is preceded our current wetland regulatory program at the state level. And I had the opportunity to spend some time with them in their condo in Tallahassee, and it was just that whirlwind of energy. Mariana would keep him organized. He'd say, "Well, this is what I'm going to say tomorrow, Mariana," and then he'd finally, he actually sometimes would get tired and collapse. I mean, you didn't see it very often, but he actually would. And then Mariana, you'd hear the typewriter clicking, and she'd be typing out his speech for him, and then she'd drop us off at the Capitol, and we'd go at it again and again and again. And it was one of the most fun things that I've ever been able to do in my professional career, and I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to be under his wing at those times. So we can't, I think it's great to honor Johnny and his many accomplishments, and to take his energy and let's take it forward and continue to address the great challenges that he identified and that we and you all face. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Manley.